أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم نويت تعلم التعليم وتذكر التذكير من نفع انتفاع الفائدة والاستفادة الحث لك مسك بكتاب الله تعالى وسنة رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم والدعاء للهدى ودلالة للخير وابتغاء وجه الله ومرضاته وقربه وثوابه سبحانه وتعالى اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد مفتاح رحمة الله عدد ما في علم الله صلاة وسلام بدوام ملك الله وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم عدد كل ذرة من مرة. All praise be to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our creator, our sustainer, the one who's giving us his divine blessings, the greatest of being the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace and blessings upon him, upon the prophets and messengers from amongst his brethren, upon his noble family, upon his noble companions, and upon all the righteous scholars who followed his footsteps with excellence until the day of resurrection. Ameen, ameen, ameen. So just before we start this session, and we've been asked to cover the topic of Hanafi Fiqh. Before we actually go into this topic of studying fiqh, there's two things that I would like us to cover. And the first being the importance of seeking sacred knowledge. And secondly, how did we get to Hanafi Fiqh and the importance of following a madhab? Because this may be in people's minds, and I found this to be beneficial to do this type of session when I've taught previously. So this is just setting the context. And alhamdulillah, jazakumullah khairan to the brothers from Pisang for putting this together and allowing us to connect virtually. You know, it's a difficult time for everyone in the sense of being quite isolated, and it's a great opportunity for us to use this time and actually learn something that will benefit us not only in this life but also in the next life as well. And in the preparation of Ramadan, we thought once we cover this session, it's good to go forward in the next section and actually cover the fiqh of fasting according to the Hanafi madhab, and then we take it to purification and prayer and onwards from that. So alhamdulillah, bifadlillah, alhamdulillah, you know, by the blessings of Allah that we're able to gather in this way and to use this as a medium and a means for transmitting knowledge. And also we start with the intention. So before we do any action, as the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, "Innamal a'malu binniyat." Verily, actions are upon their intentions. So this is the first hadith that we find in the collections of Bukhari and Muslim. And it's very important for us to go back to that, because why are we here? We're not here to pass time. We're not here to just learn information. We're here to learn the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which we can put directly into practice. And this knowledge is not like the knowledges of the secular sciences, for example. The knowledges that, yes, we can provide benefit from those knowledges, but this knowledge is called a sacred science because it's connected to the sacred tradition. It's connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this knowledge should give us a better connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and give us an understanding of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the great scholars, they say, when we're talking about sacred knowledge should be a light that is within us. So it becomes a light manifest into our hearts. This is the fruit of this knowledge. It's not just learning information. It's something that will transform us to being better people. That's why we're learning. And this comes on to the dua which I recited at the beginning of the class, which is a dua of seeking sacred knowledge. And inshallah, we'll pass this on and encourage everyone to look at this and to, alongside myself, to read this. We will read it in the Arabic and we can read it in the English as well. And the intention here is that I intend learning and teaching. When we learn, but we also learn from the perspective of having this understanding, but also teaching others. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Ballighu anni walau ayatan." Convey from me, even if it's one verse. Meaning our family members can benefit from what we've learned. So I intend learning and teaching, reminding myself and reminding others. When I'm going through this lesson, I'm not only reminding you yourselves, I'm reminding myself first, and I'm reminding you. And benefiting myself and benefiting others. It's all about all of us benefiting. It's not that I'm more knowledgeable than you, or we're doing this collectively to attain this benefit. Encouraging people to hold fast to the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Quran Kareem, and the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and calling people to guidance, guiding people to do good. Why? In order to gain the noble countenance, the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the reason for why we've gathered. This is the reason for why we're learning this. Mu'adh ibn Jabal, the great companion of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who was sent as one of the envoys to Yemen, he said, in learning is fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When we learn, we start to increase in our taqwa, in our understanding of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this should bring about more fear, more awe, more reverence for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He said, seeking it is worship. When we're in this class of knowledge, it's a form of worship. What we're doing now is a form of worship. We pray Dhuhr prayer, that's a form of worship. We give zakat, we give sadaqah, that's a form of worship. These are all forms of worship. Revising it is tasbih. What do I mean by revising it? When we finish from this class, inshallah, one of the etiquettes of our seeking sacred knowledge is that we should make notes. Because when we make notes, then we can go back to them afterwards and we can refer to them and we can solidify our understanding, or if we put something down wrong. So making notes is an important part of learning. So he said, revising it is tasbih and searching it is jihad. Traditionally, when people sought sacred knowledge, they would travel to long distances to get that knowledge. And for this difficulty, this is a struggle, this is a form of jihad, this is a form of difficulty, a spiritual difficulty, a physical difficulty in the efforts in acquiring it. And we'll see this as we go forward in terms of the great scholars of the past, how they traveled such long distances just to hear one hadith from another scholar, because they were closer in chain to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Alhamdulillah, we have ease in this time that knowledge is coming to us in our own homes, and this is one of the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We thank Him for this, because truly, if we didn't have it, then this would, we have this as a blessing. So in terms of the etiquettes, this is the first time I'm actually teaching a class of fiqh virtually. So I'm looking at a screen. I don't see who's in front of me. And it's a very different experience to engaging with people that you're sitting with and interacting with. And also when we were studying and we learned from our teachers, we had certain etiquettes. And those etiquettes was that we were focused in what we were doing. i.e. we weren't distracted by other things, but we were giving the lessons complete focus. We were in a state of wudu when we were sitting in class, and we were prepared with notes. So I know we're in a virtual world, but still, I believe we will take more benefit if we have the right etiquettes. And this is from the teachings of the scholars. Imam Malik, he said, make your knowledge, make your adab, make your etiquettes like flour, and make your knowledge like salt. So in the recipe of making bread or cakes or whatever, you have a lot of flour and you'd have a little bit of salt. And he likened this to being able to benefit from knowledge. Meaning, if we have too much knowledge, too much information, and we don't have the right etiquettes with this information, with this knowledge, we're not going to benefit from it. But if we have the right etiquettes, even if what we're taking is not too much, we will benefit from that. And that will stay with us, inshallah. Inshallah. So this is just some of the preliminaries I just wanted to cover before we actually go into the main presentation. So in terms of fiqh itself, the Prophet ﷺ, he mentions, "Man yurid Allahu bihi khayran yufiqhu fid din." Whoever Allah wants good for, He grants him an understanding in the religion. So just to reflect upon this, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants good for each and every one of us in this class, because He's allowing us to be part of this journey of knowledge to come to this understanding. So this is a sign that Allah wants good for us. Because if Allah didn't want good for us, He wouldn't have allowed us to be in this class. Learn knowledge about His religion. Sorry, if I could ask people to go on mute if that's okay, because I can hear some background noises.
Okay.
Jazakumullah khairan. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he himself, he was with one of his companions, Abdullah ibn Abbas, and he was a great scholar of the Quran. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he came over to him and he placed his blessed hand upon the shoulder of Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Abbas, and he made a dua for him. He said, Allahumma faqihhu fid din wa allamahu ta'wil. That, oh Allah, give him an understanding of this religion and give him an understanding of interpreting it. So just the blessing of that dua of the Prophet ﷺ allowed this companion to really understand the Quran in a way that other people couldn't understand it. Ultimately, understanding comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this is what we're seeking here, that Allah opens our hearts and He gives us an understanding of this religion with sincerity, because it's not about your level of intelligence, it's about your level of sincerity. This is the prerequisite. Our teachers, whenever we started learning, they said the prerequisite of learning is that you come with sincerity, and you will see, inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you openings and give you an understanding.